Hello and thanks for joining me for another video. This is some races around Brands Hatch in this week's Daily Race C that I've been doing, just trying to figure out what the pit strategy should be. By that I mean, when do you pit, and when you pit, should you change tyres? There's definitely no fueling required. There's only one type of tyre required, but some people are not changing the tyre and some people are. So I did a couple of different races here to see what I had success with. It's a bit of a longer video, so I skipped through a lot of the laps just to keep it down to a sensible time, but hopefully it gives you a good idea of what might be useful to do in different racing situations. It'd be great to hear your thoughts in the comments of what you've had success with this week as well. So let's get into the video and see how it all worked. So this first race we're going to watch was actually my second race of the day. In the first race that I'd done, I'd started in third place. I've got off to a really good start, but then about halfway through the second lap I get taken out. Lost quite a few places, and yeah, it wasn't really much of an event to watch. But what I did notice when I watched the replay back to see what the fastest drivers did was that the guy that won the race didn't start in first, but did win because he didn't change his tyres at the pit stop. So just had a really quick pit, no change of tyres, and that got me thinking in this race, maybe I should just focus on looking after my tyres as best I can and try that strategy. So that's what we're going to do here. So just riding on board for part of the first lap, and I'm being as gentle as I can with everything, so braking just a little bit earlier than I would do otherwise, trying to brake nice and gently, and trying to keep my steering as smooth as I possibly can. And ultimately, as long as I can stick in the slipstream, then that should pay off for me, I would like to think. We're going to see there's always the chance around this track of another driver making an error, at which point you're definitely going to be moving up in the position. So I don't think that's going to happen with Brackus. He seemed pretty bulletproof in the previous race, and this one he was putting in best laps consistently even without slipstream, and definitely a very quick driver. So as you can see, coming around to the end of the first lap here, we've pulled a nice gap out between myself and fourth. I'm still maintaining the slipstream of our friend Fake Taxi here, who I think might be Bobby on an alternate account, but not 100% sure on that. And yeah, so we're going to skip forward through a couple of laps here and just see how the splits progress. So get to end of lap 2, still in the same position. End of lap 3, nothing really changed, except the gap is opening up substantially. And then into lap 5 exactly the same, but then here at the start of lap 6, Fake Taxi does actually make a bit of an error there, and he loses a lot of speed. I'm going to be able to get up alongside. He doesn't cut across and fight me here, which makes me think that he just wants to let me through, work together to see if one of us can stick with Brackus, because if anyone's going to catch him, we're going to have to do that by working together and not fighting too much over second place. So he did seem to be the faster driver as well. The guy is now behind me in third, so I'm just going to do everything I can to maintain this gap. But looking down at my tyre wear, lap 6, there's really not much wearing at all, so I was very pleased with how my tyre management was going. I'm not the best at managing the tyres, and it's something that I'm trying to get better at, doing more race Cs now. But yeah, I felt like this one was going pretty well so far, and do actually start to pull a few tenths here and there away from Fake Taxi. So yeah, not a bad lap so far. And we're going to skip forward here a little bit through this section, just to the end of this lap, where we do see that Brackus goes into the pits. So he's put in a little bit earlier, which I was curious about, and he did change his tyres here, which actually was the opposite of what the previous winner had done. So this is what I'm saying about not really being sure what the best strategy is to use here, but we are pulling away from Fake Taxi a little bit, so I'm just going to stick with what I'm doing, keep managing the tyres as best I can, and really commit to this strategy to see. As you see, we're putting nice consistent lap times and feel like doing a good job. So then at the end of the next lap, Fake Taxi comes into the pits, and I wasn't sure what he'd done at the time, obviously, whether he had changed his tyres or not. So I come in at the end of lap 8. It doesn't really matter if you're not going to change your tyres when you pit, I guess. It's just to do with how much of a gap you've got between you and the driver behind. And I knew Brackus was going to be faster than me and he was going to be catching, so I figured, well, the gap's the absolute biggest it can be, I'm just going to pit. And you can see we've still really not got much wear on the tyres. It's now lap 9. We've only got 4 laps left to go. and it's looking pretty positive. I don't think I'm going to catch Brackus just because of his pace, and he did change tyres, it turns out, which is why he proceeds to be able to pull away quite a bit here. And I've got 2-second gap to Fake Taxi. Now that's the difference between having changed the tyres and not, because it turns out that what he'd actually done is he has changed tyres, and that's why I've gone from only being a few tenths in front of him to being nearly 2 seconds in front. But you're just going to see the way that the time just disappears in this instance. Now I don't know if this is because I'm not pushing hard enough because I'm too conscious of tyre management, or I'm just not quick enough on worn tyres, but you can see the time really dropping down quite a bit. So we started off the lap sort of 2 seconds behind. He's already taken 3.5 tenths off of that, and it's going to be a question of whether he's going to catch up before the end of the race, and then if I'm able to defend, because obviously this track is very, very hard to make a clean overtake on unless you're a lot quicker than the other person. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit here and see what happens. Now as we come across the line for the start of lap 11, you'll see he's already down to 4 tenths. So it's well into my slipstream now, has been for sort of the last half a lap or so, and is really gaining at a rate of knots. So as I said, this is a really hard track to overtake on, so I'm planning on just defending. I know that I'm not really going to catch Brackus, so it's just going to be a question of whether I can hold Fake Taxi behind or not. So I'm going to have to take defensive lines here whenever we think he's too close. Don't think he is for that corner, so there's obviously no need to defend and slow yourself down if you don't absolutely need to. But coming down here on the back straight, he's got a lot more pace than me, and he's going to take the outside here. I haven't closed it off early enough. Doesn't quite get the move made. He's going to look to go up the inside, but again not close enough alongside, so we managed to hold on to it for another couple of corners. On my original first race, this is the corner where I got taken out. Somebody tried to overtake up the inside there, which was just disastrous, and I think always will be. So thankfully Fake Taxi didn't send a move up into the inside of that corner, because that could have been disastrous. Here again he's looking up the inside, but I've boxed it off. Managed to keep him behind, although you can definitely tell that the pace that he's got now on these fresh tyres is way over and above what I've got. So we're going to have to take the inside line coming up to T1, which is not ideal for either of us because it's going to slow us both down. And again here, looks like he might have enough to go up the inside, but I do feel like I came across enough, and he gives me a nudge there. Now fair play, because he knows that wouldn't have been a fair way to overtake, and he lets me back through. So really, big respect to him for being clean in that regard, with a complete lack of penalty system at the moment, not balancing things out for us. And I think at this point now I must be pretty safe, because he had that chance to make the move there, didn't make it happen, and it gave me a nudge to give me a bit of a gap, but then straight away he's down to being less than 2 tenths behind. Now this time he's going to look around the outside again, and I've got to give him a car's width around the outside here. Felt like I did a good job with the brake in there, and do manage to keep him behind for a second time. But that's less than 2 tenths behind. He is all over me like a rash at the moment, and definitely trying to apply the pressure to see whether I'm going to crack or not. Thankfully I've managed to keep my consistency pretty good through this race, and I think part of that's probably because I'm not pushing as much as I would be if I was, say, in a race B where there's no tyre wear, or if I was planning on changing the tyres and just wearing these ones out. But still, looking down at the tyre wear, it's not bad, and we are managing to do a good job of managing that. So now, final lap, are we going to be able to hold on to him for one more time? Definitely not going to be close enough to go for the move at the hairpin. He's looking around the outside and then for the cut back, but going to be able to again just keep him just far enough away that he's not able to make the move. Now I have to go defensive here because he definitely had enough momentum to go up the inside, just try and make my car as wide as I can, and you see he goes out wide to come back to get a better run up out of the corner, which just really leaves me like a sitting duck here now. He's going to be more alongside coming into this next right-hander than he has been at all. I'm just going to try and nail my braking point, but do probably use maybe a little bit too much brake there, being conscious of not wanting to run in wide, and fair play, he makes it round the outside. I'm not able to push as hard as I would like to, and I have got the chance to maybe send it up the inside here, but I know it's just going to be race over for both of us if I do that, so I end up taking third place, and did go back at the end of this race and watch the replay and noticed that he definitely did change tyres, and so the following race that we're going to do is going to be testing out with the tyre change to see how that works. So here we are for the second race that we're going to do, and in this race we're going to be changing tyres at the pit stop. So starting in fourth place this time with the addition of Borfas, the Spaniard, in second, and there's going to be a little bit of a change around in lap 1, not much happened. Fake Taxi just made a bit of an error, and during that Cone Tool managed to get past me and keep me in fourth place, but with the loss of Fake Taxi. So we're going to be looking to try and make a pass on Cone. I did feel like I had some pace on him, but you see there together, first and second ever coming together. Borfas gets knocked off onto the grass, he's then got dirty tyres and loses the back end. That's enough to distract Cone Tool, and I slip up the inside here. So we're going to get this move made cleanly up into second place. Now again we're going to skip forward a little bit here to the end of that lap, so we've pulled a little bit of a gap out and then pull it further still to be a couple of seconds. Now here, this is the only mistake I saw Brackus make all day in the sort of 4 races or so that I did, but he does fully send it into the barrier, gets a 1.5 second penalty, and it's just all too much for him, so the rage quit ensues, and we're now in first place and able just to push on as fast as we can in clean air. I'm not going to be worrying about managing the tyres as much here, because I know that I'm going to change them, so just trying to put in the best laps that I can over the coming laps. Again, we're going to skip forward a little bit here to the end of lap 9, which is where I pitted. You see I've got 9.5 seconds before I come in. I think you need about 11 seconds clear if you're going to change tyres to still come out in first, so if I hadn't changed tyres here, I think I probably still would have come out in first place, but as I am going to change, you just need that extra couple of seconds to help out with that. Now the Dutchman is definitely going to get past us, but just enough alongside G-Berg here that I feel like I've got the right to fight for that. Do leave him enough space on the outside, but he's not fancying it obviously on worn tyres, pushing it round there. So I managed to hold on to second, and then skipping forward to the end of that lap. The Dutch driver here in the Hyundai is on very worn tyres, a car that's not as strong around this track as well, so I think he thinks about fighting for it, but ultimately lets me through. And it's going to be a bit of a formality for the rest of the race now. He still needed to pit, so Cone catches back up into second, but I've now got a pretty healthy gap come the end of the race of 3 seconds. I did feel more comfortable on the fresh tyres, obviously, just a bit easier to drive, you haven't got to worry as much. But my overall race time here was 19 minutes 48. Now the previous race time where I didn't change tyres was 19 minutes 46, so there could be a little bit of that because I had no slipstream for a lot of this race because I was in first due to other people spinning off, or it could just be that there's not that much difference between the two race strategies, and maybe it's down to each individual driver and who's better. So I would personally summarise by saying that if you're in a situation where you've had to fight and you're going to wear your tyres a little bit more, you can definitely still make the tyre change work for you. Just make sure that you pit around lap 8 or 9 at the latest to make that actually worth your while having the fresh tyre. But if you want to not pit, I think if you're good enough at managing your tyres, you can probably make that work as well. But it'd be good to hear your guys and girls comments. If you've got any thoughts, please do drop them below in the comments section. If you've enjoyed the video, then please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more. And thanks ever so much if you have stuck through it till the end. Until the next one, goodbye and good luck in your races.